Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I hope our viewers and subscribers are having a wonderful day. My name is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time. This right here is a little bit of information about me. Be sure to check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Welcome to the Ignition Time channel. This channel is about the country, the economy, as well as our money. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why millions, yes, millions of our fellow Americans have been left behind in this changing world that we live in. I'm not just talking about the pandemic, I'm talking about the automation of all the jobs that is actually happening, not just in America, but across the world. And interestingly, how this is linked to former President Trump and how this is actually linked to the marginalized voter, which is representative of many factions of the Republican Party. Welcome to this channel. Let's just jump right in. Here's a very interesting new essay from the New York Times. It's a guest essay. I'll provide you with a link to this article in the description section below, so make sure you check it out. Why Trump still has millions in his grasp. I'm going to quote directly from this article. Beginning in the mid-1960s, the priorities of the Democrats began to shift away from white working and middle class voters, many of them socially conservative, Christian and religious observant voters, to a set of emerging constituencies seeking rights and privileges previously reserved for white men. We're talking about African American individuals, women's rights activists, proponents of ethnic diversity, immigration, sexual freedom, and self-expressive individualism. By the 1970s, according to this guest essay, again, you'll get a link to this article in the description section below. By the 1970s, many white Americans who had taken their own centrality for granted felt they were being shouldered aside, left to face alone the brunt of the long process of deindustrialization. In other words, the world changed very rapidly. Again, folks, this is a guest essay, and I do believe that there is a section of our community, a section of our population which has been left behind. But this is a very interesting piece, this article. So let's get back to it. A cluster of adverse economic trends, including the decline in manufacturing employment, the erosion of wages by foreign competition, and the implosion of trade unionism. So folks, an argument could be made that this was about former President Trump understanding those trends, making sure that those voices were heard, and that could explain part of the reasons behind his election. That is what this article is trying to allude to. Here's another very interesting part of this article. This revolution is driven by unprecedented levels of technological innovation as artificial intelligence joins forces with automation and takes aims not only at employment in what remains of the nation's manufacturing heartland, but also increasingly at the white-collar managerial and professional occupation structure. In other words, because of a shift in the way America is evolving as a country, because of a shift in our population, because of a shift in our priorities, and because of the advent of technology, millions of individuals are now marginalized. Millions of individuals are full of resent. Millions of individuals are angry and frustrated. Therefore, in many ways, this is linked politically to the Republican Party, politically to former President Trump. But again, the goal of this video is for me to highlight the fact that millions of our fellow Americans have been left behind. Individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality. Individuals who are stuck in the cycle of poverty that you see on your screen right now. What is interesting is that all this evolution is a direct result of a tipping point in our country, a tipping point in the demographic makeup of our country, a tipping point in the rise of certain populations, a tipping point in the decline of other populations. Also of the fact that not enough children are being born in the United States. We are potentially looking at population decline. A tipping point is essentially leading to two Americas. I sincerely believe there are two Americas. I live on the East Coast. There's the East Coast and the West Coast, and there is the middle of the country. There is the southern part of the country. There are fundamentally two Americas within the United States of America. And as millions of our fellow Americans are struggling, even though the economy is recovering, the Republicans, specifically the Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, is doing whatever he can to reinforce his base, to feed red meat to his supporters, and essentially to position the Democrats as being the villains. Politics, as you've heard me say before, is about timing, opportunity. It's about tribalism, us against them, and it's about perception. Let's take a look at this interesting segment with Ted Cruz where he says they, meaning the Democrats, are spending money like crazy. Dear God, please nobody tell the Democrats what comes after $1 trillion. Well, I have news for you, Ted Cruz. You voted for the $1.5 trillion in tax cuts for the ultra wealthy in 2017, and now you're concerned about our fellow Americans. I'll also show you a chart of how the income inequality in America has been magnified over the past several years. But first, let's take a look at this interesting segment featuring the one and only Ted Cruz from the great state of Texas. Let's roll the tape.
You look at what's happening in Washington. Washington has gone stark, raving nuts. You know, Washington is a city that combines Southern efficiency with Northern hospitality. And it's always been a messed up place. But now, the inmates are running the asylum. Joe Biden, when they let him out of the basement, and he teams up with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they are losing it. They are spending money like crazy. Dear God, please, nobody tell the Democrats what comes after $1 trillion.
So let me know whether you agree or disagree with Cruz in the comment section below. In the meantime, let's show you this chart on your screen right now, falling behind. This is the change in weekly earnings among working age adults since 1963. Those with more education are climbing even higher, are becoming more successful. I would actually add to this that those who understand technology, those who understand software, those who understand programming are becoming more and more successful, are becoming wealthier, while those with less education, especially men, are falling further and further behind. On your chart, on one side, you'll see how men are doing, and on the other side, you'll see how women are doing. And as we take a look at this chart, let's start with the men on the left side of your screen. You'll start to see that over the past few decades, men with graduate degrees essentially have been earning much more than men with bachelor's degrees, and men with bachelor's degrees have been earning much more than men with some college education and high school dropouts. In other words, individuals who are high school dropouts are at the bottom compared to individuals who have a graduate degree. Let's compare men's education levels with women's education levels. It's the same case as far as women are concerned. Women with graduate degrees do substantially better. But what's interesting is that even women who are high school dropouts tend to do better than men who are high school dropouts. Very interesting data on these charts. And this is where all of this information comes together. I'm actually going to quote this from the New York Times article. Heartland states like Indiana and Kentucky with heavy manufacturing histories and low educational attainment, in other words, the states that are most likely to suffer from automation, contain not only the nation's highest employment-weighted automation risks, which is basically what I said, they are the highest risk of job loss from automation, but also registered some of the widest Trump victory margins. This means that former President Trump knows the voter that he's trying to appeal to, and by extension, the Republican Party. By contrast, all but one of the states with the least exposure to automation and possessing the highest level of educational attainment voted in the past for Hillary Clinton. In fact, let's show you this image on your screen that actually shows you the type of viewer that watches the conservative Fox News network and the liberal, what people call liberal, the CNN news network. As we take a look at this chart closely, and as we take a really close look at the high income earners, you'll see that those making more than $100,000 are in a substantially higher number when it comes to CNN. In other words, people making more than $100,000 watch more CNN than they do Fox. On the other hand, as you can see on the chart on your screen, those making between $50,000 to $75,000 a year, they watch more Fox News. People making $30,000 to $50,000 a year, they watch more Fox News. People making $0 to $30,000 a year watch more Fox News. Folks, there are two Americas. This is a divergence, not just by way of income levels and education levels, but also of fundamental political ideologies, which is what both parties are exploiting right now. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. This is fundamentally the tale of two Americas, as millions of our fellow Americans are left behind, and the link between the two Americas and former President Trump. Let me know if you learned something new from this video. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. A lot of effort goes into these videos. I want you to know I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.